Hello collectors and welcome to K-Tapes once again. Today I have something a little bit different for a change. Happens that yesterday I went to Seoul to grab, actually I just went there to grab one tape for someone that's been asking me for this tape for a while, and I promised him I would get it. So I went back to Seoul yesterday. It took me an hour and a half to go, an hour and a half to come back. Not that I want to rub it in, but it took some time. So anyway, while I was there, I thought, well, I might, look around and see if I cannot take anything else with me or find anything else interesting. And turns out I found two things. Actually, those two things are two games. And I don't want to make this a gaming channel by any mean, but if I keep finding things like that, it might be interesting to open up a little section, perhaps showing some oddball Korean games or Korean releases of North American games. By that, the first one I want to show you is this. So this is Marathon 2. And Marathon 2, if you don't know, was one of the first games by Bungie. And if you know Bungie, you know they're responsible for a small hit, just like that, called Halo. Yeah, the extremely popular Halo for Xbox. I mean, the game that pretty much launched the Xbox into stardom, right? And later on, they made Destiny. So this was their first venture in the games at the time, and this is Marathon 2. Of course, there's a part 1 also made by Bungie, and this is almost like the template for Halo, because this is a first-person shooter. Now, it's a Korean release. I've never seen this one before. Not that I'm looking for these things anyway, but they rarely turn up, because I would have. I always keep an eye for cool stuff, even though it's not VHS. If it's VCD, DVDs, Blu-rays, whatnot, I always keep an eye open for these things. And of course, because of my age, I grew up with those games, of course. So I would check for that normally. Just that they never turn up. Why? Because the market in Korea is pretty much, I wouldn't say saturated. That's not the right word here, but many people in Korea that are into nostalgic stuff, they do go for games, and every console games in Korea are pretty much sold out everywhere. There's no way you would go somewhere and find like a rare Korean cartridge of a Super Mario game in the wild like this for like $1. It won't happen. And it happened to me once, and that's it. And I found like 2 games, and they were like actually $1 each, and I sold them back for big money. But it never happened ever again. It was just a random thing. So yeah, these PC games, however, are a bit less sought after, I would say, by collectors. Although, I mean, it's an understatement, because games are huge in Korea. Don't ever think that, oh yeah, you can find this for cheap. Well, actually, it may happen, of course, but it's rare. But I'm just saying here that the PC games might be a bit easier to track down, because there's less of a following. Like, people are really hardcore on the console games. This is a brand new, surprisingly enough. I mean, I won't slide it out of the case here, but maybe you can see, but it's still shrink wrapped. So the game inside is still brand new. And yeah, Marathon 2, the game came out, I think it was late 1995. And this release here says, it's a little bit small. I don't think I can zoom or focus. Can I? Actually, yes. It says 1999, you see? So November 1999 was the release for this particular version. And the thing again is, you know, there's no information about these games anywhere in, like, even on Korean websites. It's really hard to find anything. So it's hard to tell if this was like the original release, if it was a bootleg or anything. But let's just assume that everything that came out in the 90s, I mean, up at least until the mid 90s, many of those things were bootlegs. But they were kind of legit in Korea. So they were kind of like legit bootlegs, if it makes any sense. And very few like legit companies would release that stuff under like a real contract and everything. So I'm just guessing this is sort of bootleg-ish. But as you can see, there's a company right here, like IS Media, whatever, and they released this. Although there's no Bungie logo on the cover anywhere. I looked on the CD, there's no Bungie logo. So that might be their original for South Korea, but it was not original, as maybe the company didn't allow that, or who knows, okay? So if I look inside, because they have like this gorgeous little flap here, you have like more cool graphics of the game. Can I focus again? Yep. There you go. And some instructions, forward, backward movements. It's pretty neat. And the story in Korean. There you go. It's pretty nice packaging, I think. Yeah. So I found this. So this is my first purchase in the gaming world. Pretty proud of this catch. It's actually really nice, really neat release. Okay, now let's move on to the pièce de résistance, the piece of resistance, or the main course, should I say. And this one is this gorgeous release of Fallout Part 1. As you can see for this one, compared with the previous game, you know, the previous game I said about the game, the company, the label, here you have Interplay. So this means it was probably not a bootleg, or it could have been, although less. it's hard to explain. But yeah, the situation in Korea with those games at the time, and even some movies, was a bit sketchy. I mean, the 90s were when Korea was kind of getting on the international stage. So they were still doing stuff a little bit, you know, a bit on the side. So here, the very interesting thing about this release is, if you can see here, it says Sangyong with a double S. Sangyong is a huge conglomerate in South Korea. They actually make cars and trucks, and they do have like a subdivision, and they make apartment buildings. So they're into the construction area, they're into cars. It's a big company. It's not on the Samsung level, but it's pretty big. Like, it's one of the biggest South Korean companies. So that means this company used to release games, which is quite interesting. So yeah, you have the original Fallout. If you know the original Fallout cover, like the box, like when it came out in the States, it has the same the guy with the helmet, although we had like a bit more info, I think, on at the bottom and the top, maybe a bit on the side, because it was like an oversized box, so they just like put it like a bit smaller. You have the date here, Windows 95, 98. Here you have the Sangyong logo, the Interplay logo, Fallout name in Hangul right there, in Korean. So let's open this one up and see, and let's focus. Okay, whoops, I'm doing two things with my one hand right there. Okay, so some instructions, character button. Okay, that's cool. And they show you, probably this is the hub, see what does what. What do we have here? Characters, they explain each characters, what they do, who they are. Pretty nice. Okay, now let's look at the back. So the back says something about 1986. maybe the apocalypse happens in 1986 or something. I never played this game, by the way. I just played, as most people, part 3, part 4, New Vegas. I didn't try 76 because I've heard bad things about it. But yeah, I've never played this game. I just remember it was a top-down, I think, turn-based type of game. So yeah, a few screenshots right there. Here again, it says Windows 98. Where do you have the release date? Sometimes the release date is hidden inside a code, just like with VHS tapes. So right here, you see it says KGL 9803. So that would mean it was released probably in March 98. So that would be about the same time or more or less as the North American release. So this is another sign that this is probably a legit copy. So like an original South Korean release of Fallout. So yeah. So that's it for today. There was actually another game I wanted to pick up. The other game was a weird South Korean game called FBI. I left it there and I kind of regret it. I'm probably going to pick it up sometime next week and show it to you as well. So yeah. So anyway, this was my little venture into the gaming world. Again, not that I'm going to turn this channel into a gaming platform or anything. Not platform, but gaming channel. But I just wanted to show you some really cool hotball founds in South Korea. Alright guys, so thanks again for listening and stay safe, and see you again with the next video.